Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Mrs. Busby and I had a great surprise this morning. The folks from Lincoln Daily News were up here to take our pictures. For what reason, I don't know what we did wrong or right, but anyway, we were just a little short for words this morning. We were so surprised.
Let's say we were dumbfounded.
Yeah, dumbfounded is right. Walked in and all these people here in the studios, and I thought we'd double booked and scared me to death.
Well, that's what I told him. I said, I could screw up a one-car funeral. And I thought, I've done it now.
Which brings me to the fact that we usually try to make a kudo or two on the Viewpoint as we start out each Wednesday morning. And I think Mrs. Busby might be appropriate to thank our media folks, Lincoln Daily News in particular, for the news coverage that we get in the community. It's quite good. It's unbiased. As Friday said, just the facts, ma'am. And so that would be our kudo for today. And let's just jump right in. We have an excellent guest this morning, a fellow whom I respect very much. And so why don't you introduce him, if I can remember his name.
I remember his name, and his wife's besides.
Amen.
Yes, Glenn Shelton wasn't born and raised in the big city of Lincoln, America here.
No.
But it's been here for a long time. How many years have you been at Second Baptist?
35 years and 7 months.
And where were you born, Glenn?
Springfield.
Oh, not very far away.
Big country town.
Yes. Yeah. But you know something? I think we're lucky that we live in a town this side. We're kind of exempt from some of the badness. Now look at up in Wisconsin, just over the border. They're just trying to ruin one another left and right. What the heck is the deal? It just makes you sick, doesn't it?
Yes, most definitely.
What's the matter with us? Burning down. My aunt lives in Minneapolis. She is 93.
Just a kid.
You're just a kid. Yeah. But she has her own car and she drives all over, and she lived not close enough that she could see the fire or smoke, but that was the area that they burned, was where her library was, her post office was, her grocery store was. She could drive over there in a short order and do all her things. Well, they burned to the ground. What's the matter with us? In the olden days, you'd do any dance you could to avoid offending the next guy. That was what your parents told you, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
to be polite and to be kind. Well, we got over that.
Well, having said Judy's introduction there, and that's good, Judy. So we'll just put the elephant in the room.
Am I excused now?
Yeah, no. We'll just bring the elephant right into the room and talk about that. I think one of the reasons that Judy and I asked, we've had the pleasure of having Mr. Shelton up, Reverend Shelton. Sorry about that, Glenn. Before here in our studios. Yes. We've always enjoyed that. And recently we had a resurrection of the term racism here in the community, and that got to worrying me. And Judy and I thought it might be appropriate to have Reverend Shelton visit with us, because he's walked the walk and talked the talk. And the reason specifically why that bothered me is I didn't realize that, as I said this morning, perhaps in my naivete, that we had a, quote, race problem here in this community. If it is, I'm certainly not aware of it. So I wanted to just address that directly. We put a billboard up by the Golden County Fairgrounds, and candidly, kind of got my back up a little bit, Parson, because I said, well, now somebody's stirring a pot that's not on the stove. And so I thought I'd ask that question. So we have with us this morning a gentleman who, as I said before, he came here and almost immediately was apprised of the fact that his skin was different than ours when a policeman stopped him for no reason at all, except to maybe harass him. He wasn't one of our local policemen. Well, he was at the time, but he's gone, so we don't have that sort of problem now. But do we have racism in that definition of the word here in Lincoln, Logan County?
Depending on our definition of racism, because it takes many, many forms. One is you could be a racist term used if you don't want to talk about the differences besides the color of our skin between each other. Why am I treated differently than you are? If we do not have communications, how do you know who I am? And how do I know who you are if we don't talk? If we don't communicate with each other? I learn more about you the more I talk to you, and you learn more about me the more I talk, and that builds relationship. We find things that are common to one another, whatever it might be. It might be fishing, hunting, which I love. You know, it might be talking about religion, the different denominations. It might be education. You who have more education than me. What kept you going to school when I had to go to work, or whatever the reasons are? And the more we learn about each other, the more we begin to appreciate what each is offering to the other. And you have to be transparent. You don't want to hold anything back. I can remember times when I went to a house and the mother would come out on the porch. I couldn't go into the house, and we talked. And the dad would be sitting in his lounge chair by the front door, screen door, but he never would come out. He never would say a thing to me, not even a hi or anything. And this went on for several weeks, into months, during the summer months. And just about the time of September, when I walked up to the porch, he said, "You can come in."
Is that right? That's a big step.
Yes. And he had his little glass that had some colored water in it. I won't.
I mean, it was weak iced tea.
Yeah, you can almost see through it.
There you go, yeah.
And he tried to cover it up, and I said, "Please don't do that, don't do that." And we had a conversation, and he was getting up in age. He told his wife if he shouldn't expire before her. He wanted me to do his funeral. Now, the family did not go along with that.
Is that right?
Not at all. They called another pastor in the city that they wanted to do that.
But that's real evidence of your point. If you know somebody as a person, now you take out that whole level of thinking.
Exactly.
You can say, I'll use the example of Swedes and Norwegians, because where I come from, the Swedes thought the Norwegians were a bunch of goofs, and the Norwegians thought the Swedes were.
Well, they are, aren't they?
Not valid.
That's what we've been told.
No. But you see, if you know somebody and they happen to be a Swede, and they're really neat people. You can't say I don't like sweets.
Right.
If you just get to know, and he got to know you.
Yes.
He was
heard
the
everything
richer.
that was going on.
But in his case, it was on his terms.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then the fact that he wanted to kind of hide his little drink, and you said, no, don't worry about that.
Right.
That kind of cemented your relationship in a way. Speaking of cementing relationships, before we get too much further, we should cement our relationships with our good sponsors. So go right ahead, Chief Engineer Ash. And we're right back live in the studios here at WLCN. The program is Viewpoint, of course, each Wednesday morning, away at 15 to, or close to there, to 0900 hours. Our guest this morning, a fellow that I've known since he came to town, and I'm glad that our friendship has gotten closer and closer down through the years. A man whom I respect very much. As a matter of fact, so much that I call him Father Silvertongue. Now, there's a reason for that. Glenn is going to close the door here is what we're going to do. Yes. Judy, thank you, sir. We'll get Judy started. Well, she's just getting started. Yeah.
I'm a real professional, I'll tell you.
We'll break her in sooner or later. In any event, Reverend Glenn Shelton is known as a pretty good sermon giver. And his famous comment to me was, if you're going to come to hear me, you better pack a lunch. And so I've kind of avuncularly named him Father Silvertongue. And I say that with respect as well as hopefully a little humor involved in there. The subject this morning, of course, is race relations here in the community. A problem that I did not know existed in the form that I know about race relations. I think we're extremely lucky here in what I call Mayberry. We go along day to day and things go pretty doggone well. And I know of no rising incident that happened in the past that would create us to be called racist in this community. And then we erected a billboard out at Golden County Fairgrounds, and that's just fine. But it kind of piqued me a little bit to wonder, do we really have, is that billboard necessary? I guess that's what I want to say. And some folks think it's doing, and that's fine. So I just wanted to get the elephant right into the room and talk about that with a man whom I respect very much and who has walked the walk here in Lincoln, Logan County, and accepted pretty much as a real solid guy. So, Glenn, we're happy to have you with us this morning. And 648-5510. If anybody has any comments, suggestions, or questions, feel free to call in, 648-5510. You better be nice to him or we'll cut you off. So.
You want to believe it.
Go ahead, Reverend Shelton. We were talking about, generically speaking, in the community. Mm-hmm. There's nothing, am I correct in saying this? There's nothing that's really blatant or full-blown insofar as race relations are concerned?
If we use the word covert, I would be hesitant to say yes.
Covert, yeah.
Yes. Outward, very active. Even the term nigger is not as prevalent in our community as it has been. If it is, it's close-knit, a small group. When it was open earlier on, when my grandchildren were going to high school here, it was used very loose. They would be in the hallways and a group would come by and say, there's those niggers, you know, and things like that, until I went to the high school to speak to them about that, and we were successful, I believe, in drafting something for the student handbook and parents that there will be zero tolerance for the use of that word, and everybody had to sign off on it. And mine is not so much your signature on there. Mine was, it has to be enforced. What good are the words if you do not enforce it? Zero tolerance means what? And so just don't put a paragraph in the handbook
and do something about it.
Yeah. And when they said you would be suspended, then I signed off on that, just to be sure that they would be suspended if they used that word against people of color, things like that. So that's not even an issue anymore at all. There's been much improvement in terms of hanging a noose out of a window to a kid and call that kid's name out.
That's racism, blatant.
At the high school, in the parking lot, as school was being discharged, they hung a noose out and called the student's name, who happened to be black, and said, "This is for you." And then they drove on off. That caused me then to go to the school and
well, I guess
to discuss. Why did you let this happen? And if I did not have the names of all the students, both black and white, of all the students who witnessed that, of course you're going to kind of deny in their own way that occurred. But I had enough sense at least to say, you just heard my side. Here's a list. You can talk to all of these, and you'll see that these were white students as well as black students who saw and heard, and will identify who was in that truck when they did that.
A person who would do that to a fellow human being has to think very, very little of themselves. They must not have any self-esteem at all in order to feel that they have to lash out and do something that mean and stupid to a fellow human being.
One of the things that I think it is your own environment where you come out of. That is not something that is in you when you are born.
No.
Hatred is self-taught or taught around your environment. Hatred, I would first think it would come out of the home. We don't like people like that. And then you honor and obey your parents. That's the way we were raised.
That's right.
And if they say so, they know what's going on, so you believe that. So you see someone that's different than you are, especially color, then you take in this feeling that is not good. You're upset. Everything goes off kilter. You begin to have a little rage in you simply because of the color. Martin Luther King put it very well. Don't judge my kids by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And if we do that with each other, then you've opened up the communications line, and that's where we fail to really appreciate one another, because we fail to communicate honestly and truthfully about what we believe.
And a great part of that stems from your environment in which you were raised.
Exactly.
My mother caught me using the N-word once. She washed my mouth out with soap. That got my attention. But that word was anathema to her. Happily, Maybe that was her Brutonview roots. You
Yeah.
know, she grew up as a kid on the farm out there. She was never exposed to all that.
Right.
And she knew that was wrong. Inherently knew it was wrong. And she made damn sure that her kids had the same attitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she enforced it.
I had the same. We moved right after the war, about 47. Yeah, about 47. My parents bought a home, but it was in a white neighborhood. So we were the first black family, my brother and I, my mom and dad, to move in this neighborhood. So all the kids around were white. That were my age.
Sure.
And that's what on the right side, I can't tell you nationality or that group, but they were hillbillies all the way. I learned all the hillbilly songs. And all the left of us were the Irish. Down the street, the Gamardis, all the Italian stuff out there. I got exposed to everything and loved everything. We got along well.
You were a
in the
national man, weren't you?
And so that word, the N word, was never used except a couple of times. I didn't really know. I'm an illiterate, so I didn't know what that word really meant. I knew that it was a word that was negative in meaning,
Derogatory.
very derogatory, and especially with people of color. And I did not know. I just knew that you didn't call a person a nigger. Not at all. I don't care what color they are. You just didn't use it in our house. And yet, as I'm growing up, I'm hearing this word. One of my friends across the street used that word to me, and I was offended. And I happened to be in my age group, probably. Well, I had the loudest mouth, so they thought I was the
Father Silverton.
Well, you were probably in training to share with your parishioners, you know.
So they were afraid of me. Let's put it that way. So I kind of told her, hey, who you calling? You know, or something to that. No. You know, he's apologizing and everything. And I don't think he ever used that word ever again. The point is, communications is the key to resolving any differences. Communications is the very first subject that I deal with when I conduct premarital counseling. We go all the way into conflict resolution. You get an exercise, bring it back to me, don't share it with each other, and let's discuss why you don't like what he likes and why you don't like what he likes. Let's resolve this. Not seek a compromise. Let's resolve it. Let's get rid of it. We do too much compromising around here in our society, and I'm talking about the United States, than anything. I see so much deflection going on. Black Lives Matter. Oh, that's offensive to some people.
Well, but that's a no-brainer.
But rather than dealing with that, Black Lives Matter, they deflect and say all lives matter. Now we're off to another subject. You know?
Well, that seems to be the common sense response. Correct me if I'm wrong. But in fact, indeed, all lives matter.
But in fact, we weren't talking about all lives. You didn't listen. You heard, but you didn't listen. Black Lives Matter. What do you mean by that? Let's go back. Slavery. Let's go back and bring it forward. Black males, now they're including females, but black males are in trouble from the beginning of time here in the United States. Taking black males out of where they came from, some were royalty.
Yes.
Some were noblemen, and just taken out of their own home and brought here to help build America. That's a given. We don't need to discuss that. But look what happens to the black males who stand up and say, no more. No more. When you get lynched, you get shot, you get taken out of your home, Emmett Till, taken out of your home, strung up with barbed wire, mutilated, and everything like that. Black males being stopped, automatically you're guilty of something. What was Bill Cosby's son stopped and killed? He said, well, he resisted. Okay.
How did he find resistance?
Yeah, what is resistance?
Yeah.
When the man was killed with his knee, with the police knee on his neck. When he was in the car, he said, I can't breathe well already, but I'm a cop. Yeah, you're just trying to get off easy here. Yeah. You're always suspect. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. Nothing done. Handcuffed on his stomach. You can't do anything. I can't breathe. 8 minutes, 43 seconds. The knee.
See, there's the statistics that's ingrained in Glenn's knowledge because it's important to him, more so than to Jim Ash and myself, by the very nature that we have different colored skin, period. 648-5510. Our guest this morning is Reverend Glenn Shelton, Second Baptist Church retiree. You're too young to retire, sir.
Hallelujah.
Tell us a little bit about Second Baptist out there down through the years. My memory goes back to Reverend Clarence Long. And he had 2 sons in school when I was in school. One was bright, the other poor guy was a little slower.
Not so bright.
Just the way things go. Second Baptist does a lot of work out there in the community. Tell us a little bit about Second Baptist, Glenn.
It's a small church in terms of numbers, mighty in the Holy Spirit, concern are with usually the poor and the oppressed, the neglected, those that are incarcerated, whether it be jail or prisons. We have ministries at both, not to jail so much anymore, nor with the prison anymore, but we used to have dynamic ministries at both places. We don't go around advertising. We just do work. We've been out on county roads picking up trash, and no one knows about it. We don't believe in that. We just believe in doing good. And the Bible tells us to do good to all men, regardless of how they treat you. You do good.
It's accepted in the community that is a black church. However, you certainly do not turn away white worshipers who want to worship with you on Sundays.
We have white families at that. And of the 10 that are there every Sunday until we open up, there is a white female. She has been faithful every Sunday. She's a member of another church locally who's not open right now. And so she wants to come in and worship with us. She just simply loves the services there. We're an upbeat, we're positive. I do not conduct sad funerals, at all. I eulogize everyone, even though somebody says that person's not going to heaven. I'm gonna find something good to say about that.
That's why I talked to Glenn about doing a eulogy for me.
Oh, Bill.
I'm going to say something good about it. That little church is the pride of my heart. It really is. They try don't have a lot of money, don't have great facilities. We could use more volunteers to help in keeping our ministries going, but I'm telling you, it's a great little church that does what God tells us to do in a very positive way without us having to toot our horn. Mm-hmm. We don't have to do that. He's the record keeper.
Yeah.
Not us.
Yeah. Well, you have folks who come from out of the community to come worship with you, too.
Amen.
You don't have just Lincolnites.
Decatur, Normal, Decatur, Jacksonville.
Now, those are little
Springfield.
trips to get
Yeah.
Hey, Jacksonville's a heck of a run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
You didn't like
come.
driving in from Beeson.
Right. I'll tell you a great story. On a Sunday morning, these were vacationers here in Lincoln. And they were driving along, and I don't know who it was, but somebody saw our church and said, "We need to go to church." I said, "Yeah, well, we do need to go." It's a husband and wife, and they're I think he's about 10 years old at this time. A little boy with them. I said, "Okay." And he said, "I like this church." And so that's where they stopped. And no, what they were stepping into. but they heard all this music coming out of the church.
And there's plenty of music.
Yes.
And they enjoyed the services tremendously. They said the one thing we like about Lincoln is this church. I mean, we love the history of Lincoln and everything, and that's why they stopped through. But to get up from the motel and go just driving around, and all of a sudden, I said, that's God. And God is trying to show all of us that we all can worship together. The most segregated hour is Sunday morning. Everybody goes to their own respective. There's the black church, so we can't go there. And we go here. Well, I'm not a Presbyterian. I'm a Lutheran. I'm going over here. I'm Assembly of God here. Well, there's the full gospel now. They're preaching it all. So
Well, now you see, Glenn just exhibited his prejudice. He never said one word about the Episcopalian Church
nor Baptist.
or the Baptist. If you want to hear some real music, you go hear Mrs. Shelton. Ginger can get it on. She's quite a musician.
Now,
Go ahead, Judith.
other than Jim, who's just a pup here, the three of us are certainly bona fide, certified senior citizens.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
We've made it thus far.
By the grace of God.
Only by the
Don't
grace
forget
of
that.
God.
Don't forget that.
Tell me how you feel coming from where you've come from. Now here we are in 2020. Are things better? Are things worse? Are things the same? What's the hope for us getting smarter as time goes by?
There are several reasons that run through my head. Number one, politics.
Yeah.
That's a number one problem here in America right now. We have become so greedy and so selfish in our thinking and in our wants and what we believe we need, that we tend to ignore others. Let me get back to the religious part. We love trying to help other countries, and we ignore that this country needs some help also. So we got foreign mission going on.
Yes.
But home mission is not a priority. We have left, and I'm sad to say this about the churches as well as Second Baptist and the Presbyterian, that we leave that up to the government and everything else to take care of our own. And it should not be just within the confines of a building, but our own is you two. You're mine, I need you, you need me. And that kind of attitude does not go out to everyone. It's just certain people that we want or we need. Others, we don't. We can do just fine without having to deal with you. And that's a sad state of affairs. And our politicians are acting just that way, being bullheaded in their positions, not coming together, seeking resolution to their differences, which you can do easily if you just tried. But they won't do it. Our politicians won't do it at all. And I'm not talking about, listen, I am so against politics anymore that I'm afraid to say, and I am out there, a registered Republican. 45, close to 50 years. Registered. Check the records. Glenn Shelton. And you'll see, I'm not happy with our party. I'm not. I've seen the change, and it was so gradual that I didn't see it in the beginning.
Yeah, you're right there. It just slipped in increment by increment.
Yeah.
Our guest this morning, the clock went out of there on us again.
Well, maybe we can steal a minute since we were late to work. Boy, I tell you, we're lousy employees. And he pays us.
You're unionized.
Yeah, it's a small union, just the two of us.
Glenn Shelton, the pastor, retired pastor. I want to emphasize that.
Yes.
The poor guy's, he served the Lord and his flock for many years.
And
here.
still does.
And still doing it in his own way. We appreciate the fact you take a little time with us this morning. And as you leave the studio, take our love to Lady Ginger in your home. We appreciate the fact you've spent some time with us this morning, Glenn. If there's anything we can do for you down the road, don't hesitate to call Judy or I. And we'll work it through Jim.
I know you will.
We'll close Viewpoint with the usual program. I'd like to sign off with Be the Reason Somebody Smiles Today. Thank you, Glenn Shelton.
There you go.
God love you.